You are now listening to Cryptid Cocktail Party. Creatures, let's meet for a drink. It's a treat. Join us in the fight. Cryptid Cocktail Party. Cryptid Cocktail Party.
Hey, happy Easter, everyone. Welcome back to another... I guess it's not going to be out on Easter. It'll be out...
It'll be the day after, but that's a holiday here in Massachusetts, so...
Oh, well...
Happy Patriots Day, motherfuckers.
Fuck, Jesus Christ. All right. Oh, was it... Wait, Patriots Day. Is that the Boston bombing holiday?
Well, I mean, we try not to associate the bombing with it, but yes, that's what happened.
How could you not? Anyways, we'll get to that in a second. Welcome back to
April
another
15th.
episode... Welcome back to another episode of Cryptid Cocktail Party, a show where we have a few drinks, share a few laughs, take a dive into the unknown. I am your host, Dave, joined as always by Sarge, my muse, my love. How's
Your
it going?
PTSD-laden co-host.
You're right. We're recording this on Easter. That's why I got a little carried away, I got a little amped, you know?
Yeah. Who wouldn't celebrate the only historical story of a zombie?
True, but also, I mean, all right, so Christ died. He was
Right.
put in a tomb.
Mhm.
Then for 3 days, he just chilled out, and then he goes like, JK, LOL.
Exactly.
So
And then bunnies started laying eggs.
yeah, so he didn't die for our sins. He didn't die. He gave up a long weekend for our sins.
Yeah.
It was a 3-day weekend. He's like, fuck it. I need to just chill.
I need a break.
Yeah. I do have one question though. I don't know shit about the Bible or God or Jesus.
I got your back. I used to be a Sunday school teacher.
So he died, and then 3
Yep.
days later he was resurrected.
Mhm.
And then what? Did he just live out the rest of his life, or did he just
No, he just fucked off after that. And he's like, I'll be back.
To where?
And then didn't come back. He went up to heaven.
Yeah, but his physical body went? Is that a thing? I thought only your soul
Yeah.
went.
Yeah. Look, reports vary. Some believe
Reports.
that he became the Holy Spirit.
Okay,
Others believe
what happened to his physical body?
he was dead. He's dead. His body was dead, but he
he-
came back as like a ghost.
Oh, so he wasn't resurrected. He haunted them.
Yeah, basically. But he's like, I'm going to come back eventually.
But then where did his body go? Because then they opened the tomb and they're like, oh shit, there's only thing here is the shroud of Turin. And then,
And he like walked around for a bit and then he fucked off.
but he didn't walk around because
Well, see, this is where reports vary. Okay, so the Mormons believe that he came to the United States.
this is true. There are some.
The Jehovah's Witnesses believe that he was crucified on a stick, not a lowercase t.
How would that even work?
I don't know, man. This is all nonsense to me. I just repeated what I read. So I think the prevailing belief is that he physically came back to life.
Yeah, with a physical
Went
body.
around and like popped up behind his buddies and was like, surprise. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to go away and you won't see me again until the end of the world.
Okay. So then his
Yeah.
physical body went to heaven?
Yes. He extricated himself northward to the
I
skies.
don't think you can do that. Or I guess that's what
No.
the rapture is.
No, but that's probably why atheism is becoming more and more prevalent, because everyone was like, wait a minute. If the ark didn't get you
If the-
and the talking donkey didn't get you,
yeah.
the fact that he came back to life after being brutally murdered by the Romans
Yeah.
in them, and then
Okay.
my best friend is Jewish, and he and I had this like whole inside joke about all the things that he's got planned that he won't tell me about because
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a goyim.
I mean, well, they're always scheming something.
Yeah.
You know?
I bought him a space laser t-shirt.
It would have been great if you just ended it before the word t-shirt. He's just present him with this. He's like, I already got one.
Well, I'm glad that we've introduced our audience to Christianity. The Christian Cocktail Party has come full circle.
It really has.
Welcome to the team.
Yeah. All right, Sarge.
Studying Jesus and other cryptids.
Safe to say that we're both having a pretty good Easter. So I think so. We're gonna skip on all the niceties. We have a lot to go over this episode, Sarge. This is a doozy.
I mean, now we're gonna skip the niceties. We had like 5 minutes of lore about Jesus.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Today we're gonna be covering Mark Richards Part 2. Do you remember where we were last episode?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We went through. This man was like the Forrest Gump of conspiracy theories.
Yeah, he's done it all, and he was always the hero.
Yeah, right. Of course, like you do.
Yeah, but like I mentioned at the end of the last episode, it's kind of it was all nonsense. There was no starships, no raptor princes, which is probably the most upsetting part of the whole thing, and no Minerva, which is also kind of upsetting because.
I think that's why I got so angry, because I knew it wasn't real, and I was like, God damn it. I want this so bad. I want a spaceship that is alive.
Yeah. And again, I still 100% firmly believe that he fucked that ship. There's no way.
He totally fucked it.
Yeah.
He put his penis inside something on that spaceship.
It was like, did you ever watch that episode of My Strange Addiction with that dude who was in love with his car?
Oh, who was banging cars?
Yeah. It was that was the first thing that came in my mind when I when I read about Minerva.
I remember him licking the bumper and thinking,
dude,
cars are dirty, man. Don't do that.
He wasn't licking it. He was laying fully underneath the car and kissing the bumper. And I'm pretty sure he was hard. He was basically just dry humping the drive shaft of that car.
Henry Ford, when he invented cars, never envisioned what could happen.
Oh, he was probably doing it too, dude. He's like, I'm going to be so fucking rich and just fucking.
That's true. Henry Ford's a weird fucking dude. He's got a lot of problems. Don't Google Henry Ford's feelings on Jewish people, because
don't do that.
Yeah, he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy is what you need to know. That's it.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, the reason why you were probably getting so upset is because you knew that none of this was real. It wasn't based in reality. So today I'm going to tell you the reality of Captain Mark Richards. So,
I'm so goddamn excited for this. I'm so ready.
Are you?
Yeah.
I don't think you are.
I'm hard right now. Well, like mostly.
Okay. you went from 6 to midnight real quick, didn't you?
Well, right now it's like 9 p.m.
Gotcha. All right. So in reality, Mark Richards was living in Marin County, California, and he was just barely scraping by as a contractor. He was running a small, struggling home renovation business and was just, at this point, just trying to keep himself afloat. But even on the brink and or already in financial ruin, Richards, the ever delusional man that he is, and much like every local band's social media, he had big things coming, all right? Big things are around the corner. He believed
we are opening for Whitesnake.
He believed himself to be a visionary and a man destined to reshape the world. But before we get into all that, let's talk about what Richards was actually doing with his time in the 70s. Since we know that he wasn't fighting space Nazis along dinosaurs.
Right.
Richards, in 1977, years before Pendragon was formed, he tried to start a little place called Future Castle. Now, what do you think Future Castle?
Time out.
What?
Future Castle?
Yeah.
Did the marketing team just decide to take a nap and let him name it? That is the worst name for anything ever.
Dude, it was 1977, man. I mean, back then, this is the height of creativity, I bet. Actually,
I guess
that's
so.
Not true.
Future Castle?
You would think
so, like a house?
You would think that like a man who came up with all of the crazy stories he came up with would do a better job at naming something than Future Castle. You would think.
Yeah, like it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
why? What is futuristic about this castle? And why would you need a castle in the future?
Well, do you want to know why?
I do.
All right.
I desperately do.
Okay. So think of it like a Future Castle is like a mashup between like a prep school, a science like a sci-fi convention and like a Renaissance fair, but all of it's kind of wrapped up in the warm embrace of like a cult. Does that make sense?
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah.
So this is like a Hail Bob situation. Like,
yeah,
hopefully nobody's wearing Nikes.
He pitched the idea of Future Castle as a quote unquote academic community for the coming new Renaissance, where students would be trained in military strategy, scientific theory, political leadership, and pretty much whatever Mark was scribbling down in his notebook. And I'm almost certain that his notebook looked exactly like the notebooks from the movie Seven. So just take
or Superbad, where it's just a bunch of really veiny penises,
just a bunch of dicks. Now,
it's like future knights jousting with huge cocks.
Here's the thing, though, and probably very unsurprising. The project had no money, no infrastructure, no staff, no land, and no real interest outside of Mark. It was
naturally.
Yeah, it was literally a kingdom without subjects. The only thing to actually come from it was a paper trail of absolutely bonkers proposals and promotional material that nobody took all that seriously. So,
right. Well, I mean, here's the thing. When you think about it, when you're catering to the Renaissance fair crowd, offering them the future is kind of the antithesis of what they're into.
You know, I didn't think about it like that. But
yeah, I mean, I've never been to a Ren fair and saw a guy in a Star Trek uniform. You know what I mean?
You haven't? Because I feel like people do that all the time. And they usually don't get received very well by the people at the Renaissance fair.
Yeah, they don't have a phaser. They just have a club.
Yeah.
Hit you on the head with.
So
set your phaser to bludgeon.
So when this plan spectacularly failed, Richards didn't let it go. He just went further with it, and his Camelot fantasy morphed into something much darker. So behind closed doors, he started forming a secret group that he named Pendragon, as in Arthur Pendragon, the fabled father of King Arthur. So unlike Future Castle, saying it is just awful.
Future Castle just sounds so stupid. It sounds like, bro, you probably could have brought some people in if you made this a little bit more like Star Wars.
Something, anything. But anyways, Pendragon wasn't about education, if you could call what was going to take place at Future Castle education. Pendragon was about domination. See, Richards, in his John Doe notebooks, had laid out detailed plans for a takeover of Marin County, turning the region into a feudal kingdom where he, of course, would rule. He mapped out strategic targets, transportation choke points, and even weapon placements.
This dude is the biggest fucking nerd on earth.
He plotted out how to blow up the Golden Gate and Richmond San Rafael bridges to cut Mirren off from outside intervention. And on top of Mount Tamalpais, on top of Mount Tam, would be a command post with mounted energy weapons, which he designed himself to help repel the National Guard or the army from advancing into the city. So, yeah.
My guess is this guy had like a big table in his apartment and it was just full of like Lego sets that he put together. And he's like, this is my town.
It's got to be something. It's
yeah. He's got like little Lego men. He's probably, oh man, I know guys like this.
Well, you should probably report them because what happens next is kind of fucked up.
No, I mean, they just play Warhammer 40K, you know? That's how they get their future night fix.
That's fair. So, so at the center of this new kingdom, you got Mark Richards ruling as a modern day King Arthur, and below him you have a court of a couple teenage knights that he recruited from his failing construction crew.
Of course. Of course.
He promised them titles, land, and power. So like literal nobility. One teenager, Crossan Hoover, would later state that Richards promised to make him the Duke of Angel Island.
Oh, God. This is so great. No wonder. Now it all makes sense. He's got an army of teenage boys. Like, this is literally the start of Warhammer.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Pretty
he
much
started Warhammer 40K.
Yeah. So Richards, with his grandiose confidence and his constant, almost to the point of being insufferable, mythologizing of himself, had brainwashed and convinced these kids that they were building something real and doing something noble.
Did he though, or were they just like, "Hey, can you buy us beer?"
Well, we'll get to it. So
Okay.
Here's the catch, though. What's one thing any strong and respected kingdom needs, Sarge?
A moat.
Close. It's gold.
Okay.
And Richards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Richards, he was broke as fuck. Future Castle was a complete failure.
Naturally.
His renovation business was failing, and his future kingdom wasn't just going to build itself. So Richards needed money, and he needed money fast. Enter into the story, Richard Baldwin.
Can we just go back to why his renovation business failed? Because I think I know what happened.
What happened? What do we got?
Every time he showed up at a job, he's like, "You know what you need? You need a drawbridge."
You know what this house could use? More turrets. I think what we need.
and then when if the lady of the house was ever like, "No, we don't need that," he's like, "As a witch, burn her."
Speak when spoken to, wench.
Get me a turkey leg.
All right. So Richard Baldwin was a 36-year-old car guy who ran a local vintage restoration shop. He was well-known, well-liked, and unfortunately for him, a trusted friend of Mark Richards. Now, they worked together on various things. Mark had, helped renovate his house. They would talk shop, hang out, drink a couple beers. But now to Mark, what with his new kingdom that needed funding, Baldwin wasn't a friend anymore. He was a mark. Pun intended. He was the perfect solution to the cash problem that stood between Richards and his medieval wet dream. See, Baldwin was known to carry large amounts of cash on him at all time. He also kept a lot of valuables in his home, and these are all things that Richards knew from working with and for Baldwin on his property. So, Richards needed funding to launch his coup, and Baldwin had what he needed, and he was pretty much just going to take it from him. But Mark wasn't about to get his hands dirty alone. He called upon his trusty knights, 17-year-old Cross and David Hoover, who I mentioned earlier, and 18-year-old Andrew Campbell, who, looking back on it, he kind of got the raw end of the deal. Like, Hoover was promised that he would be the Duke of Angel Island, whereas Andrew was just offered land and status, which, I mean, apples and oranges in my... like.
I'll give you yon horseless carriage. You mean that the gremlin?
Yeah.
Or the pinto? Which one is mine?
Yeah. But anyways, Richards called a meeting of the Knights of the Kids Table and laid out their mission, which was...
the Knights of Chuck E. Cheese.
He laid out their mission. Kill Richard Baldwin, steal everything, and use the money to start Pendragon. So... on the night of July 6, 1982, Richards lured Baldwin to the shop under the pretense of discussing classic cars. Just casual hang sesh, crack a couple old cold ones, talking cars. Like, no reason for Baldwin to be suspicious.
Yeah.
Now, while Baldwin was distracted, probably talking about something car related, whatever, Richards gave the signal. He scratched his head, which is a pretty simple but stupid gesture, but what it meant was it's go time.
Oh my God, I would accidentally do that signal all the fucking time.
That's why it's so fucking stupid. I scratch my head more than anyone. Like, like I would walk in and do that. But anyways, so what that signal meant was that it was go time. So Hoover crept up behind Baldwin and swung a metal baseball bat into his skull. Baldwin collapsed to the floor, either stunned or dying. Hoover just hit him again and again and again. Then, with Richards and/or Campbell assisting, Baldwin was stabbed repeatedly in the chest and face with a knife and a chisel.
You think they would have brought swords with them? You know?
Honestly, you would think.
Yeah, or like a lance. Like, what are we doing here?
Well, it wasn't the cleanest or most efficient kill on record, but hey.
Well, that's what happens when you hire teenagers to help you carry out your weird space renaissance dream.
Yeah, but at least the hard part's over. That's done.
Problem solved.
Yeah, so time to get to work. They went straight to his house and cleaned it out. Cash, checks, credit cards, collectibles, anything of value, they took it. They then returned to the body, wrapped it in a plastic tarp, tied it with a cord, and dragged it onto Baldwin's own motorboat. And in the early hours of July 7th, the three conspirators set out into the San Pablo Bay, and once out far enough, dumped the body overboard and hoped that the current would just do the rest.
My understanding of true crime is that the current never does its job. I feel like that body came right back.
Well, once back on land, Richards got to work playing innocent. Oh, what? Baldwin's dead? Oh no. Oh no. Oh, my lucky stars. Is that a thing?
Someone has killed my squire.
But behind closed doors, he started spending his ill-gotten gains fast and stupidly. The same day that he dumped the body, he went on a little celebration shopping spree, and over the course of the following days, he forged Baldwin's name on checks, used his credit cards, and because you can't make this shit up, he bought himself a boat. So,
of course he did. He probably also got like a ton of really nice D20 sets, like the metal ones, and all the rule books for D&D.
Yeah. Was it 82? Was it D&D? I don't know when D&D started.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah, you're right. No, it was the 80s because that's when everyone got scared of Satan.
Yeah. So 80, yeah, I mean, it could be. I have no idea. But
might be later on in the 80s, but either way, this is the guy who like owns all the D&D books but can't find anyone to play with it.
Yeah, he would have fucking loved D&D if he
would have.
He would have.
Honestly, and Warhammer, naturally.
I honestly think that if D&D had been around, this wouldn't have happened.
Oh, absolutely.
You know
absolutely.
what I mean?
This guy would still be alive and detailing classic cars.
Yeah.
And this other guy would just be going to Ren fairs and, sexually harassing women.
But I mean, I think it's kind of like the same thing. Like you hear a lot about how like the reason why we don't have many serial killers, like, you know what I mean? Is because like the internet, people have an outlet for those things. I mean, there still are. And now we don't have serial killers. We just have mass shooters, but it's a lot of it's kind of like they're weird fantasies. Like they can see and or role play it online. I feel like if he had D&D, he could have, that was a good outlet for his fucking weird fantasies.
Right. No, that I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think that like 90% of the crimes committed by like crazy morons back in the day could have been solved by just watching like Game of Thrones.
Something, anything. But for a minute there, the plan looked like it had actually worked, and Pendragon was a fucking go. Unfortunately, though, the fantasy didn't last forever. The cracks started to show almost immediately. Hoover, the 17-year-old golden boy of Pendragon, he could not keep his mouth shut. He started
Of course not.
He started bragging to classmates, to friends, to anyone who gave him 5 minutes and like a hand job. Like anyone who even looked his way. Like he talked about the murder, about Pendragon, about how he was going to rule over Angel Island once the New Order took over. And
oh my God.
Yeah, it didn't take long before word got to law enforcement, and right around the same time, you called it, the body came back. So
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. So on July 20th, 1982, a tugboat operator spotted something in the waters of San Pablo Bay. It was a tarp tangled in cable, bobbing at the surface. Inside was the decomposing body of Richard Baldwin, his skull caved in, face and chest punctured with stab wounds. And for law enforcement, it wasn't like a mystery for very long, obviously. We're not dealing with like the higher echelon of the criminal underworld here.
No, absolutely not. And I know I like joked about it, but I do feel horrible for this poor fucking guy. Like, he's just being friends with the weird dude. He's like, hey, he likes medieval shit. No big deal. Like, what a horrible situation. Like, this poor guy is being friends with somebody who definitely had no business having friends based on his ridiculous ideas.
This is fair.
And his only reward for being a kind human being was being murdered by fucking Uther Pendragon over here. Like, what a horrible situation.
True. To be fair, though, if it was with swords and like a broad axe, like I think I'd be okay.
That'd be an okay
with
way
it.
to go. I wouldn't feel too bad about that.
Instead,
he died with a chisel.
Yeah, that's gnarly.
That's gotta hurt so bad.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, technically, he was killed, I think, probably by the multiple blows
metal
to the
baseball bat.
Yeah, I think that's it. But anyways, we're
getting taken out by a fucking Rosalind.
Now, when police began digging into Baldwin's circle, all roads obviously led back to Mark Richards and his two teenage employees. Like I said, there was rumors, whispers, strange behavior, Hoover just fucking talking shit constantly. And Richards...
Wait, you mean the brilliant mind behind Future Castle was unable to thwart the police in their investigation?
Yeah, and the fact that Richards was suddenly spending a bunch of money, even though everyone knew he had a failing business, it kind of threw up some red flags. So by August 1982, the fantasy had fully collapsed. Mark Richards was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, burglary, and criminal conspiracy. Cops picked him up, but, not during some secret meeting or bunker raid, but while he and his teenage co-conspirators were allegedly trying to dump more evidence. Now, because of course, why wouldn't it be that?
Yeah, while wearing suits of armor and crowns.
just the loudest. Just
yeah.
Now, I just picture like the cops pulling up behind them and they're wearing fully clad in medieval armor and they have to turn their whole bodies to look, and then they raise their visor and they're just like, oh shit, it's the fuzz. Like, because they can't see.
Quick, run! And it's just like clink, 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 clink.
Sounds like a fucking Scooby-Doo chase scene.
They hit him. They hit one of them with a taser, and the metal armor it just like arcs off the armor and hits the other ones.
God, I wish it was that so bad, but it wasn't. It sucks.
No, of course not. No, it's 3 morons. Well, 1 moron and 2 literal children.
Yeah. Now, from the second that Mark Richards was in handcuffs, he denied everything.
Of course he did.
He claimed he wasn't even present when Baldwin was killed. That he had
he was on Mars at the time.
That he had no idea what happened, and that the murder was the result of a rogue act that he had nothing to do with. But the evidence,
nothing at all to do with it,
obviously told a different story. Richard's fingerprints were on the murder weapon. His handwriting was on Baldwin's forged checks. Baldwin's stolen property, including a ring, credit cards, and collectibles, were found in Richard's house. The plastic tarp and electrical cord used to wrap the body matched items from Richard's own supplies. And then the biggest crack of all was that Hoover and Campbell flipped almost immediately.
Oh, yeah, of course they did.
Yeah,
of course they did.
Yeah, faced with the weight of the evidence and the guilt of what they'd done, both of them immediately confessed. And when they did, it wasn't just about the murder. They brought the entire Pendragon plot into the light. So
fantastic.
We touched on what Pendragon, like what it was and what they were planning, but here's a little more thorough breakdown of what it was and what they...
Before you get into the breakdown, just tell me, did they sign their confessions with like an old-timey wax seal?
Yeah, they had one of those rings where they had to they pressed it on. Yeah. Fuck, dude. I wish.
The entire confession is written in Old English.
Oh, yeah. They had a fucking quill. There was an inkwell.
Transcribed by monks by candlelight. The first letter on the page is this giant drawing.
Just massive. Just
yeah.
So what they found out was that investigators, while searching Richard's home, found maps and aerial photographs of Marin County marked with strategic targets, including bridges, government buildings, and power infrastructure. Now, this one is kind of wild because it's 82. You don't just get those off of Google Maps. Like, he had to go to like a county clerk's office or something.
Yeah, he had to go to like the assessor's office and fill out paperwork.
Yeah, you don't just come across maps and aerial photographs of an entire county. Like, you have to like request this stuff, which I mean, maybe not, but maybe nowadays that would throw up some major red flags. Maybe in 82 it's a little different. I mean, it is pre 9/11, so.
Well, also like it probably like raised his suspicions a little bit when an arrow flew through the window with his request wrapped around it.
Fuck, dude, I'm gonna choke. God damn it.
Give me yon records, wench.
But before he walks into the room, he has one of the other dudes fucking bust in with a trumpet and announce him.
Just an awkward teenager with an extremely long horn.
That's what I picture. And you know what?
Hear ye, hear ye. All right. Sorry.
Right.
I'm oh God, this is just amazing.
Yeah, they also found hand-drawn blueprints for homemade laser weapons, plans for improvised machine guns, along with typed instructions on how to build them from scratch, notebooks detailing a new form of government that would be installed post-coup, a neo-feudal monarchy with Richards obviously at the top of it, recruitment materials, listing young followers with assigned titles and land grants, and pages of political ramblings outlining how Pendragon would quote-unquote restore just rule after seizing control of the region. So, like, this wasn't just like a dude LARPing with his friends. This was like, it could have ended up in like a Waco scenario if it really got down to it. You know what I mean?
Thank God he is the most incompetent person alive.
Oh yeah, dude, it's not great. So Richards envisioned pretty much a scenario where bridges like the Golden Gate and Richmond San Rafael would be destroyed, cutting off Marin County from like the outside world. And once isolated, his forces, quote unquote, teenage knights, and whoever else he could possibly recruit, would take control of local government offices, eliminate opposition, and install Richards as the new sovereign ruler. And then the final phase included placing a laser cannon on top of Mount Tam, which is Marin's highest point, to shoot down military aircraft and hold off the National Guard. So
the laser cannon. Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is just like the biggest fucking nerd on earth. But he's not even a nerd because nerds are smart.
No.
Like, I know nerds. Nerds are smart. They're not fucking, they would have had like a good plan. This guy's a goddamn dweeb.
I was gonna say there's a difference between like a nerd and a dork. This dude's an absolute dork.
He's a total dork.
He's a fucking, which is not going to lie, it's a word that I feel like we should use more often. I think dork is really funny.
I actually keep thinking of Leonard Lake, that serial killer who like, he built the bunkers underground.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't get women to like him. So he would abduct
Leonard Lake
them.
and Charles, was it Charles Ng?
Yeah. Leonard Lake and Charles Ng. Yeah. This guy is like Leonard Lake, but way worse. In terms of stupidity, not in like crime.
I was going to say, because I think Leonard Lake and Charles Ng were pretty fucking bad.
Leonard Lake used to go to Ren fairs, though. He actually had a goat that only grew one horn, and he kept calling it a unicorn.
That's pretty fucking rad, not going to lie.
But like, bro, it's a goat. It's not a unicorn. It's just a goat, bro.
No, but that's pretty funny.
It is. If it wasn't for the fact that he was a terrible monster, like, yeah, it would be a little funny. But like, I feel like this guy and Leonard Lake would have been best friends because they were both active around the same time, too.
Well, no, his best friend was Charles Ng. Charles Ng made it known that they were best friends.
You have no idea what I bring to this friendship.
You have no idea what I bring to this friendship. But no, I get what you're saying. Yeah. All right. But yeah. And also Richards, like we mentioned earlier, had titles ready. Hoover was promised that he'd be the Duke of Angel Island, complete with territory and power once Pendragon took control. Other followers were reportedly offered similar roles. So it was a cult wrapped in medieval mythology, powered by delusion and dripping in ego. But here's the thing. When I was researching this, they kept saying other followers. He didn't really have other followers. It was more like he openly talked about this to a lot of people, and people would probably just go, "Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, no, that sounds pretty rad."
Yeah, and he just had a bunch of teenagers who yes-anded him as he bought them like cases of Milwaukee's best.
Yeah, so he probably took that as like a, hell yeah, that's another night for my fucking round table, and write that. But really, it was just the two dudes. So I don't want.
And the kids are like, yeah, right, my liege. Just I need another Colt 40 before we get started.
Yeah, I didn't want like people to think that like I'm just leaving out the fact that there was a huge cult following around him. There wasn't. It was just the two.
Yeah,
he assumed more people would follow him.
Weird that the guy who came up with Future Castle would be so unable to tell what people like.
Yeah. Now, during the trial in 1984, all of this was entered into evidence. The prosecution, led by future DA Edward Barbarian, cool name. I'm sure if
that's a pretty awesome name, actually. Barbarians at the gate, if you will.
It honestly, it fits so well into the Arthurian,
right?
But yeah, he used Pendragon to destroy Richard's credibility and expose his motives. They argued that this wasn't just about money, it was about control, power, creating a kingdom, and killing Baldwin wasn't random. It was step one in the blueprint for this revolution. Now, you want to know what Richard's defense was? Can you guess? I'll give you three guesses.
God. Witchcraft.
Like a real defense. I want you to know. This is like, pretend you're his defense attorney. You're faced with all of this Pendragon shit. What defense do you come up with for this man?
Insanity, temporary insanity, naturally.
Okay, that's not it.
The Twinkie defense. Have you heard of this?
Have you heard about this? Have you seen this?
Where a guy who tried to get away with murder by saying that he was crazy on sugar from Twinkies.
No, it wasn't that.
Okay. Self-defense.
Ooh, that would have been a wild one. Yeah, in self-defense, I beat him over the head repeatedly with a baseball bat and then stabbed him not only with a knife, but also a chisel in the face and stomach. No, it's Sarge. It's just a sci-fi novel that I was writing.
Oh God.
It's just, it's just research, bro. He claimed that he actually claimed that the documents were part of a work in progress called Imperial Marin. This guy took Star Wars way too seriously. That's what happened. Yeah. Star Wars came out in 1977 and he's like, I'm in. It's just Imperial Marin was just a fun little dystopian fantasy about local warlords and coup d'etats. The maps were just props. The weapon plans, that's world building, obviously. The bridge bombings and laser cannons, that's just creative writing. Okay.
I had no intention of doing any of this. That's why I killed a guy.
But obviously that's just like the lamest lie in history.
Yeah, it's the stupidest shit ever. Of course.
Yeah, but because witness after witness, including Hoover and Campbell, testified that Richards never once said this was a novel. He held meetings, showed them the maps, assigned titles, spoken absolutes,
also committed murder. Yeah. Also committed murder.
Pendragon wasn't a maybe, it was a someday kind of
definitely
thing. But after weeks of testimony, evidence, and what the fuck kind of moments in the courtroom, the trial of Mark Richards came to a close, and the jury was left with two possible versions of reality. One, Mark Richards was a cold, manipulative killer who orchestrated a murder for profit, using a fantasy cult as a weapon to control vulnerable teenagers and finance his personal war on reality. Or two, he was just a misunderstood sci-fi author writing a book called Imperial Marin, and it's all just a big wacky misunderstanding involving blood, maps, weapons, schematics, and a dead guy in a tarp.
And that he was present during a murder of the guy in the tarp.
No. I don't know. He's just no.
Okay. Yeah, no. You know what you're doing. You're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Don't think about it.
Think about it. Yeah. But yeah, it didn't take long for the jury to decide. They deliberated for 4 days, carefully reviewing every.
What?
Yeah, I know. Which was way longer than it should be.
Yeah, I'm saying, in a situation like this, if I were the jury foreman, they'd be like, okay, now the jury is going to deliberate and be like, you know what? Actually, you guys good? Yeah, he's guilty. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
They just walk out and then they circle back around and come out the other door. But yeah, no, they deliberated.
You know what they did? They probably sequestered the jury in a really nice hotel, and everybody just wanted to get they had massages scheduled.
Oh yeah, they were like, bro, listen, I'm taking time off work. I'm getting paid. This shit's free. I'm getting room service they're milking it as
yeah.
know,
either that or they were just like, this is so stupid that we have to be missing something.
Yeah, but like day 4 when they're just they have their mud mask on. Someone's like, you guys gonna fucking talk about this or what? Oh shit, yeah, you're right. Sorry, guilty.
One guy comes in with a charcuterie board from the hotel. Yeah, he's guilty. He's guilty. Yeah. They ran out of olives, so I'm done.
But in the end, they returned a unanimous verdict of guilty. Hopefully, I would hope so.
Easily.
But I'd hope one dude isn't well, I don't know. The book sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, that one dude is also wearing a purple robe. He's carrying a scepter.
He's got a scepter.
He said, I could be king of San Francisco.
So what was he convicted of? He was convicted of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, burglary, and the special circumstances of murder for profit and solicitation of others to kill. Now, it's these special circumstances that are pretty much key, because once the jury agreed Richards had not only committed the murder for gain, but also had recruited others to carry it out, the sentence became automatic, which is life in prison without the possibility of parole. So no appeal, no early release, just chilling in a cell
Done.
for
Game
a lifetime. Now, his teenage accomplices were sentenced separately. So Crossan Hoover, who swung the bat and stabbed Baldwin, was sentenced to 26 years to life. He later be granted parole, but the decision was overturned by then Governor Jerry Brown, who said Hoover still posed a threat to society. And Andrew Campbell, who cooperated and testified, received a lighter sentence. I don't know what that sentence was.
At the risk of pissing off Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys, I got to stand behind this decision by Jerry Brown.
Yeah, I think it's a safe. Yeah,
he made the right call.
Now, as for Pendragon, it never made it past the planning stages, obviously, because everyone involved is a fucking idiot. No bridges were bombed, obviously. No governments were overthrown. No laser cannons ever made it to the top of Mount Tam. All that remained were some folders full of fantasy, a dead dude in a bay, and a kingdom built on just bullshit. Like, there's nothing. I
feel like this should be a movie.
Yeah, I think it would be really fun. But only
with the exception of the murder, this is fucking hilarious.
It's pretty good. But you have to involve, well, we'll get to it. Now, you think that would be the end of it, obviously.
Yeah.
But no.
Naturally.
Mark Richards wasn't done. He wasn't going to go out as some failed cult leader and convicted murderer. He was going to rewrite the narrative. And in prison, he
become a failed CIA operative who's been to space.
No. In prison, he found a new battleground. That is the internet. So after his conviction, Richards began spinning a new story, one where he wasn't a killer, but a whistleblower, a secret space program commander, a man who had been framed by powerful forces because he quote unquote knew too much. Now, for years, the only people paying attention were a handful of fringe conspiracy types. That is until 2013, when one woman walked into California State Prison in Vacaville and changed everything. That woman is Carrie Cassidy, founder of Project Camelot.
Oh God, these fucking dorks.
Now, Cassidy was a self-proclaimed truth seeker, UFO researcher, and just a walking megaphone for bullshit. And
made Marion cosplayer.
Now, after visiting Richards, she emerged from the prison gates fully convinced that he wasn't a murderer, but a cosmic patriot locked away by reptilian-controlled shadow governments who feared what he knew.
I will never forgive David Icke for inventing reptilians because this shit is everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Now, from this moment forward, Cassidy became Richards' mouthpiece, conducting over a dozen interviews, taking notes during visitations, since recording wasn't allowed. She had to write everything down with a pen and pencil, then racing back to her camera to deliver the gospel according to Mark. She broadcast.
Must have been really hard for her to get all the calligraphy down.
She broadcast stories of interstellar wars, alien councils, psychic warfare, time travel sabotage, Nazi saucers, sentient ships, raptor royalty, moon bases, and secret missions that coincidentally matched the exact same sci-fi plot points Richards used to lure two teenagers into murder. Crazy, right?
Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
So all those stories that I told in part one, they all came from Cassidy's videos. They're not whistleblower testimony. They're bedtime stories from a convicted killer who wanted to make a new identity for himself.
Christ.
And Cassidy lapped it up. She pushed the narrative that Mark had been framed by the Illuminati, imprisoned to silence his interstellar service record. She claimed he'd been leading the fight against alien threats since his teens, that he was a Navy captain, a decorated commander, a Rhodes Scholar, a government advisor. But like I said, the reality of it is that he never served in the military. He was attending community college during the Vietnam War. He has no record at Oxford. His only verified degree is a bachelor's in history, and his quote-unquote command experience exists entirely in his own brain and Carrie Cassidy's YouTube channel.
That is so weird that he has a degree in history, yet didn't understand how it all turned out for the Knights.
Well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, people fucking still, white supremacists talk about the Fourth Reich. Like,
that's true. Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And then, and hey, that's no way to talk about Elon Musk. All right. He's just trying. He's trying.
But that didn't stop the myth from spreading. To this day, Cassidy continues to post quote unquote intel from Richards via his wife, Joanne, who also runs a nonprofit called Earth Defense Headquarters.
He has a fucking wife?
Yeah. That's a whole nother thing. But
okay.
she runs a nonprofit called Earth Defense Headquarters, which is a site dedicated to publishing his writings and further entrenching like the fiction. And somehow people believe it. They believe that he flew Minerva, the sentient starship, that he fought reptilians in Antarctica, that he brokered peace with bug aliens in Bolivia, that he liberated Dulce Base, and that he saved the moon. They believe in Captain Mark Richards, but the state of California knows him by a different name, which is inmate number B33920. So there you go. That is the conclusion of the story of Captain Mark Richards. How you feeling, buddy? You look good. You look...
This couldn't have turned out better.
Yeah, no, you got
it. From beginning to end, I was just enthralled with this story. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
The only downside is that I know Mark Rich. I keep wanting to call him Captain Mark Richards, but the one thing that sucks about this, and I know he's not directly receiving any sort of like monetary whatever, but Carrie Cassidy has a huge following. His wife has that nonprofit, whatever, but you know that he's somehow like making money off this. You know what I mean? Like, you know that somehow.
There's got to be money in this commissary coming from like duped people who just desperately want there to be like a Middle Ages version of Star Trek.
Yeah, and that's fucking annoying. But yeah, Sarge, any thoughts, questions, concerns? Do you want to?
Oh my God.
Anything you want to discuss?
This couldn't have turned out better.
Mm-hmm.
Just the whole story is just fucking amazing. I know I was skeptical in the beginning, but goddamn, this turned out just fantastic. What an absolute knob.
Sarge, listen, you know I would never string you along without any payoff.
No, and that was my fault for getting real mad about his many nonsense beliefs, but to just perfect.
To your credit, though, we can only talk about so many grifters for so long before it's just like, fuck these guys, you know?
Well, I think the thing that bothered me about it in the beginning was just like, you can't always be the hero. Like, you have to like put in a couple of losses there to make the story believable. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing about Carrie Cassidy and Project Camelot is that all the quote unquote whistleblowers of the secret space program, because she's had a bunch of people on, dude, and they're all fucking awful. It's all Alex Jonesian sphere kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like they're all like Carrie Cassidy. I don't want to call her. She's not. How do I word this? A lot of conspiracy theories, and especially like secret space programs and reptilians and all that. It's all based in some sort of anti-Semitism or some sort of racism kind of thing. But the thing is, I don't think Carrie Cassidy thinks about it that, you know what I mean? Like, she genuinely believes that there are different races of aliens. Like, the people that come on, they're telling the story, but it's all like, you know, the reptilians.
It's like a wink and a nod. There's like a dog whistle. Like, we're talking about Jewish people.
I think she's
a true believer.
I think she is a true believer, and it's kind of crazy. So I blame her for a lot of things, but her believing this, I 100%.
Well, like she's probably dealing with like some very untreated mental illness.
To be fair,
Mark is just yes-anding her all the way.
To be fair, she is also a huge QAnon person, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously.
Yeah, she's not great. She's not like, she's a big Trump supporter. She believed that when like Biden was in office, that Trump was still the real president working behind the scenes.
Which is weird because everyone voted out Biden for doing a terrible job, even though by their own logic, Trump was president.
Yeah, I don't know, dude.
It doesn't track.
But
I actually just saw a picture of her, and that's the face of an insane person.
I don't think she's
like
insane.
if you Google her
I think-
face,
yeah.
you can tell just by looking at her that she's fucking cuckoo banana pants.
I follow her on Instagram. I've been tagging her in every single post I've made about Mark Richards in hopes that she would like see.
You're gonna get people knocking on your door.
I just wanted to see if she'd see it. And that'd be really funny. I forget where I was going. The Secret Space Program.
She's gonna say that you're part of the deep state.
I remember where I was going with this. So you were saying how you can't always have wins or like wins. You have to have some sort of loss.
Yeah.
Not on Carrie Cassidy's show. There's no room for that. Every whistleblower, every person that comes on as part of the Secret Space Program, has worked at Dulce, anything like that.
Yeah.
They're all heroes. They're all patriots. They don't ever lose. And I don't know if they talk to one another, but they all like confirm other people's story. It's yes anding. Like
Yeah,
she'll be
it's
like,
a yes and thing. That's how conspiracy theories work. It's just a big yes and game. And then anytime somebody pushes you, you're like, well, that's what they want you to think.
here's the thing though. I don't think this is conspiracy theory. I think this is just one long grift. And Carrie Cassidy isn't part of the grift. She's just promoting the grift. But I don't think she is. Like they're
But
all
you have to like wonder how unskilled are these fucking morons that the most amount of money they could make is off of maybe the 10 people that believe this nonsense.
Bro, Carrie Cassidy has a way bigger following than you think she does.
I mean, even if it's a couple million people, even if her videos on YouTube are getting like 30,000 views,
I don't
like
here's the thing.
that's like what?
I don't think she's on YouTube anymore. I honestly,
Okay.
I think it's mostly Rumble or whatever the right wing thing. I know that she's on Truth Social. She is still on Facebook, and she has quite the following there. But yeah, I think she's just perpetuating a grift. Like she's not part of the grift, but she'll like promote people's books and all that stuff. Like because people write books, which is fucking crazy. Yeah, it's just all bad. It's all just right wing grifter shit. And like I said, the circles between her, Alex Jones, and all those, like it's like a Venn diagram that's almost a circle as far as like guests and talking points go. Only hers are more shrouded in space conspiracy. Well, Alex Jones is just crazy. Yeah, it's very, very similar. Like Steve Buttigieg.
See, the thing is, I don't
shit.
think Alex Jones is crazy. I think he is probably the sanest out of the group. He just knows if he keeps perpetuating this nonsense, he's going to continue to rake. Well, he was going to continue to rake in money until all of his assets were seized.
All right, so I just went on Carrie's Facebook. She has a documentary coming out.
Oh God, I'm so excited.
So I just wanted to see what's going on. Carrie Cassidy, like her actual Facebook, she has 5,000 followers. Not that big. Project Camelot's way bigger. But she just posted this on April 10th that she's in a documentary called Nexus to Disclosure. The Truth is Classified. I don't know how they know that. How do they know that?
The truth, you know, if you classify it, it's probably the truth. That's why you're classifying it.
But also, all right, so I'm going to read you the description that she posted on.
Please do.
And the worst is how she describes herself. All right, so this is the synopsis of this documentary. This documentary delves into the decades-long groundbreaking investigations of prominent women at the forefront of the UFO disclosure movement.
Oh, God.
It follows investigative journalist, author, and documentarian Linda Moulton Howe, regressive hypnotherapist and author Yvonne Smith, renowned speaker and author Laura Eisenhower, the great-great-granddaughter of former President Eisenhower, and investigative journalist and author Carrie Cassidy.
God damn it.
Host and investigative journalist Apollo Austria guides viewers through a comprehensive exploration of their work, connecting the dots between their findings to reveal a compelling narrative of government cover-ups and extraterrestrial phenomena. The documentary aims to expose the hidden truth surrounding UFOs and their impact on humanity, drawing on the collective experience of these influential women to shed light on one of history's greatest mysteries.
Oh, amazing.
Oh.
We have to watch this. I wish we could do like a live watch.
There has to be a way. I assume there is.
Yeah, we got to capture
Holy
our immediate
shit.
reaction.
Project Camelot's been doing this since 2005? God damn.
Jesus.
They have almost 100,000 followers on Instagram. That is bananas, dude.
Yeah, but how many people are following them as a joke?
I don't know, dude. Some of these things are getting some
like there's one
engagement.
Instagram account that I follow specifically because all of the comments are people making fun of it.
Is it kind of like that one girl on TikTok who just tells dad jokes and everyone's like, shit in my mouth, please? Like, you know what I'm talking about?
That's what I'm talking about.
I think her name's Hope,
it's
which is
not
wild.
the exact one I'm talking about, but that's exactly why I follow this account.
Gotcha.
Carrie Cassidy smiles like she is currently getting a root canal. Look at this picture of her. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, right? Check out this picture.
Oh, yeah, dude. No, she's a nightmare.
That's the smile you make when someone farts and you're trying to be polite.
Oh, goddamn. All right. But yeah, that's it. I think that's all I got to say. I don't got any more on Carrie Cassidy or not Carrie Cassidy. They kind of turned into that. But yeah, Captain Mark Richards. We're done.
Mark Richards.
That's it.
Captain Mark
It's
Richards. Bro. Excalibur.
Yeah, maybe I can fucking find a way
Excelsior.
to make it. I don't think we can. Excelsior.
We should write him a letter.
Right? Oh my god, dude. I think I'm gonna write Mark Richards a letter.
Yeah, because we can't get him on the show, but we could write him a letter.
Be like, hey, I followed you from I started following your exploits from Carrie Cassidy and Project Camelot. What's all this shit about Pendragon? Just leave it at that.
Or you could take it from another angle and be like, hey, we met on Mars.
You'd be like, yo, bro, Mark, what's up, dude? Hey, man.
Buddy, I haven't seen you since when we were on Mount. Wow, shit, I can't remember the name of that goddamn mountain.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that was fun.
Brilliant.
Episode 2.
I love this.
Yeah, a little bit more exciting than the first. I mean, it depends on what you think of is exciting.
Oh God, this is so exciting. This is so much fun.
Yeah. All right, Sarge, with that out of the way, you got anything you want to plug? You got anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. Coloring book still, Sarge's supernormal.com, $9.99. Get yourself coloring book. You just buy it and don't question it.
Don't question it. Not even for once.
Don't even think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Spend the $9.99. The coloring book will make you happy.
Exactly. All right. You could, if you want to follow us, you can follow us on Instagram, Cryptid Cocktail. Follow us on TikTok, Cryptid Cocktail Party. If you are Demi Lovato, come on the show. I think that would be awesome. I think that'd be really cool.
Demi, I don't know what other videos he has, and there's a couple without my shirt on, and I'm scared.
Yeah, I took a break today because it's Easter. I don't want to annoy her on Easter, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I'll continue harassing her tomorrow. Leave us a rating and review if you could. It'd be awesome. It helps the show, obviously, where you can.
Naturally.
You know. I always say 5 stars scathing review. I think is really funny. I think you could rate it 5 stars and just be like, this show sucks.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think we're really funny. I think that's all I got for that. With that out of the way, Sarge, you want to say goodbye and I love you to the audience?
Hey guys, goodbye and I love you.